Hi guys, it's Steph here. Welcome back to my channel. We have a book haul. There's 26 books. Yeah, that's a thing. So we're gonna get straight into it. All right, so this month I have 3 books that I received for review. 1 middle grade, 1 young adult, 1 adult, 2 I requested, 1 was unsolicited. The first one is The Astonishing Chronicles of Oscar from Elsewhere by Jaclyn Moriarty. You heard me talk about this week in my wrap up. It is a middle grade title, it is fantasy, and it is really fun. So definitely check out this week's wrap up if you're interested in finding out more about this one. I also received Aurora's End by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. Again, this was in the same wrap up as the previous book. It is young adult science fiction, it is Australian, and it follows a group of recent graduates who were framed for a crime and now they are trying to fix time and the future, and it's an interesting read. I have lots of thoughts about it, but if you're looking at it purely from a young adult readership age group, then this book is a perfectly good read and a good conclusion to the series. Unsolicited, I received The Swift and the Harrier. All of these books are from Allen & Unwin, by the way. This is by Minette Walters, and this is a historical fiction book. I have read a Minette Walters book before that Allen & Unwin sent me, so I will try and pick this up at some point. I just don't know when. It's probably not going to be while the term is up, so it might be something that I read over the summer break, but it was very kind of them to send it to me, and I will pick it up at some point. I was going to move straight into the kids' books, but I'll move into a teaching reference book since I received one. And the one that I purchased for myself was Interactive Writing Across the Grades, A Small Practice with Big Results. This is by Kate Roth and Joan Dabrowski. I have been spending a little bit more time unpacking interactive writing and using it with my kids, and I definitely need to spend a lot more time doing it this term as we've returned to on-site learning. So I wanted to do a bit more reading on it. I do know it as a practice, I know the general concept of it, but I wanted to read about it in more detail. I did acquire 2 picture books. I do have an upcoming video that has my most recent picture book acquisitions. These came after it, but you'll probably see that video later. I don't know where it's going to fall in my schedule, but the 2 books that I picked up are both by Gregg Dreise. These are Indigenous Dreamtime stories. There is Silly Birds and Cunning Crow. I have not actually read them yet. They only came during this week, and I'm very eager to read them because these are not tales that I'm familiar with, so I'm looking forward to it. And he has a series that he has done in this style with different Dreamtime stories. I've already read 1, and I have a 4th one that's still on back order. So I'm looking forward to being able to share these with my kids. I have 2 middle grade titles. The first one is Happily Ever Afterward by Shaun Micallef, and this is another tale from a tall forest. So I bought the first book in this collection when it first came out, and it is one of the most beautiful books that I own. And so when I saw that there was a second one, I got very, very excited and ordered it straight away. These are like fractured fairy tales or fairy tale retellings. They are just stunning. They have the most beautiful hardcover artwork on them. I don't think this one is quite as nice as the first book, but it is still just gorgeous, and you know, beautiful end papers and illustrations the whole way through the book. So, and I'm very eager to get to this and read it because I loved the first collection. Shaun Micallef is I hesitate to use the word comedian. He does comedy, but I don't think the word comedian does him justice. And the way that he presents his comedy is just so smart. When I read his first book, I could just hear his voice reading the story, and I know it's going to be the same with this one, so I'm very eager to pick it up. I also have The Monster of Her Age by Danielle Binks. I've been meaning to pick this up for ages, and I think I'm going to be possibly buddy reading it with Kirsty if she hasn't read it already. I love Danielle and her work, and I'm very eager to pick this up. And I also have 1 young adult acquisition, or at least I think it's young adult because it's Stephanie Garber. It is her new title, Once Upon a Broken Heart. I know people had conflicted feelings about the Caraval series. I really loved it. I trust Stephanie Garber's writing, so I'm sure this is probably fantasy. I don't know, I can't tell. It's probably fantasy, but I'll read it because I really trust her writing and that I'll enjoy it. And I know that Bree was talking about this book, and it just reminded me that it had come out, so I picked up my own copy. All right, so everything else is an adult title. There's a decent number of these that I've actually read, which is great. So I'm going to start with my non-romance titles first. So I picked up a physical copy of Redshirts by John Scalzi, which is a sci-fi book that I really enjoyed. This is a play on the Star Trek trope of the red shirt character always being the first one to die in an episode. I have read this before. It was a lot of fun. When I saw they had a new edition of it coming out, I had to get it just for my collection because John Scalzi is one of those sci-fi writers that I do really enjoy picking up every now and then. There is a new book in the Thrawn series by Timothy Zahn. This is Thrawn Ascendancy, Greater Good. I will probably pick this up over the summer break. Thrawn is just a character that I really enjoy coming back to every now and then, so I will continue to read these books probably as long as they are being released. Matthew Reilly's latest book also came out, The One Impossible Labyrinth. This will conclude the Jack West Jr. series, so I will be reading this sooner rather than later. The next 4 books are part of Tiffany Reisz's Original Sinners pulp library. She's been re-releasing them with these beautiful old school painted pulp romance covers. These are a mix of erotic romance and also just erotic novellas. Some of them have HFNs, some of them do not. So I have The Mistress Files, which is a collection of short stories. The Last Good Night, which does not have an HEA or an HFN. There is Immersed in Pleasure and Submit to Desire. So this is 2 novellas in one. And The Auction. All of these stories feature BDSM and kink in various forms. I would read up on them before you pick any of them up. I talked about 3 of them in my most recent wrap-up, so you will definitely be able to hear a little bit more about the specifics of them, or message me down below. I'm happy to tell you what's in them. I'm really enjoying them. Most of them feature Nora, who is the main female character in the main novel series, which I still haven't read yet. That's going to be my goal. That's one of the things I'm going to be reading, I think hopefully before the end of the year, is the Original Sinners books. I am really enjoying them, and I have 2 more of these on the way. I have Under the Whispering Door by Jaclyn. I wasn't sure whether to put this under young adult or adult, but I'm putting it under adult because I think the main characters are all adults. I think it's been written for a slightly older audience. It is accessible to younger audiences, but I think this one has been written for an older audience. It is his most recent story. It is about a man who dies and is taken to sort of this way station house while he waits to pass over, and there he meets Hugo, who is there to help him cross over. And it's an interesting story. I actually really kind of liked a lot of the elements in the story. I don't think it was as good as The House in the Cerulean Sea, but it certainly had the same whimsical feel, and it did explore a lot of very interesting ideas around death and grief and grieving and loss and acceptance. So I definitely enjoyed it. I also picked up Magic Stars by Lona Andrews. This is one of the novellas in the Kate Daniels world, and I didn't own it, so I've added it to the collection. I'm slowly filling in the gaps of my physical books in that series since we're doing the read-along. This one is a Julian Derrick novella, and I love it a lot. My physical copy of Walking in a Witchy Wonderland by Juliet Cross arrived. This is an anthology of stories set in the Stay a Spell universe. They are all set around Christmas time, and it's really fun. We get to revisit a lot of characters and also spend a little bit of time with some characters that are coming up in the next book. I ordered a physical copy of The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang because I do like this mass market. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous cover, and this is a book that I really loved and wanted to own. My pre-order of The Casanova finally turned up. This is by T.L. Swan. T.L. Swan is an Australian author. She writes, well, this is a billionaire romance and it's a brick, but I do own The Stopover and The Takeover, and I'd pre-ordered this one for release, and ages ago I'd ordered some signatures from T.L. Swan, so now I have 3 signed T.L. Swan books, and I really enjoyed these ones. This wasn't my favourite entry in the series, but it was definitely an enjoyable read. I rounded out my Priest series by Sierra Simone because I acquired Midnight Mass and also my physical copy of Saint. Most of you will remember at the start of the month I read His Leading Lady by Jenny Nordbach. This is her first fiction release and I loved it, so I ordered a copy of it. Plus I really love the hot pink cover. So this one is about an actor who employs a dominatrix to help roughen up his image, and they end up fake dating, and it is glorious. My physical copy of Well Matched came in. This is by Jen DeLuca. It's the 3rd book in the Well Met universe, and I love this one. It is an age gap. It is an older woman. There is a fake dating trope in here. The Ren Fair is in there, but the main character is not a huge fan of the Ren Fair, so it's a really nice perspective to have that she is not as obsessed with it as everyone else is. Plus, I just love Mitch. Mitch has been one of my favourite characters through the whole series, so to see him get his happily ever after is just delightful. My mass market edition of Archangel's Light by Nalini Singh came in. I have actually ordered both of the covers, the US and the UK one, because I love the artwork on both of them. I think it is absolutely stunning because this is going to be Aidan and Ilium's story, and I cannot wait to read it. It is the first book I'm reading in November. You better believe I'm going to be talking about it next week. The last 2 books are 2 books that I have already read. They're by Lillian Lark. There is Stalked by the Kraken, which is one of her monster romance books. This was delightfully fun. I just listened to the Bonkers Romance podcast episode where Jenny and Mel are talking to Katie Robert about this, and it was so fun. It made me want to go back and reread it straight away. And then another book set in the same universe as Stalked by the Kraken is 3 of Hearts, which is an MMF romance. and it was one of the first of the Lillian Lark books that I read. So I wanted to have both of these on my shelves because I do want to go back and reread both of them at some point. All right, so those are the books that I read. There's actually very few of them that I haven't read yet, which is great. So those books will hopefully be prioritized in the next little while. In the comments below, I would love to know if you have read any of these books or if you're planning on picking any of them up. Otherwise, I would love to know something that you acquired in October that you're really excited about or that you really loved reading. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye everyone.